So we're going to be talking about the lumber industry and how the prices are going to skyrocket on home building boom. Now, this is something that I have been trying to give warning for months now, like leading up to low prices, low inventory, and then when you see the home builders get excited about the buyer traffic, this is coming. I mean, their article down in the description that I have left for you is the same thought that I've been having for months now. And that at some point you are going to find that the home builders are going to be encouraged. They're going to look at the buyer traffic. They're going to see that the interest rates are coming down, that the buyers are going to be more prevalent in the market, and they are going to want to supply homes to that market. That's what they do. Like, home builders want to build. There is no doubt in my mind. They want to build a lot, but they want to be profitable in what it is that they are doing, and they don't want to be building into a home buyer that is not there. That's the major concern that most home builders are facing right now. Even though the prices are elevated, they're concerned about the buyer traffic. Now, if you put a position in the economy in which that buyers can now come to market, the demand increases on the buy side. That means that the inventory level that is existing will become more valuable to those people who are owners or builders of the product that is now in high demand. Like, that's the easiest way to understand it. So as the capabilities of the buyer become more prevalent into the economy, considering the home mortgage rates are already coming down, regardless of what the Fed does. Like, people are like, oh yeah, when the Fed cuts rates, they don't even need to cut rates. You're already seeing the mortgage rates coming down. People are getting excited about it. You can find that same narrative taking place within the economy, within the official analysis out there. They're all seeing this coming into the future. And I have very little doubt in my mind that we are going to see that. Now, again, we are short inventory, regardless of what people say. Like, there's a lot of people out there who say, oh no, there's plenty of houses and all kinds of stuff out there. Okay, that's cool to think, but it's not the case when it comes to how much people are willing to pay for a home. See, people are like saying, yeah, the houses are too expensive. There might be, right, too expensive for the amount that you want to pay for it, but they're not so expensive that people aren't paying this price. So ultimately, there are cash sales taking place. They don't care what the interest rates are. They're willing to pay this price for it. And if a builder is looking at an expensive product that they have buyer traffic coming towards, they are going to build. They are going to jump into the game, and they are going to start homes. Now, when you think about all the curtailment, all the mill shutdowns, all the depleted inventory that has been taking place over the last year, now I've been reporting on it. It's hard to go and find like a website to go to say, hey, what's lumber inventory like? Like, that's not a place that you can really go to. You have to know somebody who's within the game giving their visual anecdotal evidence about what is happening within that view, because there's no place to really go to, right? Madison's Lumber Reporter is a pretty decent place to go to. If you're, willing to pay the price, you can do a few other, lumber analysis. What is one of them? I'm having a hard time remembering right offhand. But there's a few places that you can go to. But generally, this is not like something that the average person would go and be paying for to get this analysis. This is something that the lumber yards or distributors, or maybe even some of the major home builders, they would be into that kind of analysis. But for the most part, individual people like you and me and the regular home builder out there is not going to have access to information that's going to lead them to understand where the inventory levels are, and that any increase in demand is going to start driving prices up. This you have to understand from within the inside. And this is why I keep reporting on this. And I don't know how many people like I have found that still want to argue with what the price levels should be and could be or whatever. I mean, what our opinion of that, it doesn't matter, right? We can think that they should be $2 studs instead of $4 studs. It doesn't matter, right? That our opinion doesn't make any difference into what the reality of the market is saying. Those who are in production of framing lumber right? Those mills, those major mills like Canfor and Interfor and all of them, West Fraser, all of them have been reporting on mill curtailments and shutdowns for a very long time. And now, if you just think about that, if that is something that is prevalent within the market for an extended period of time, it is going to leave this market short. That's the position that we are in now. And so when you look at like 500 per thousand lumber futures, and people say, oh man, that's an elevated price, it should be much cheaper than that. I'm telling you now, the mills don't operate under 500 per thousand. Like some of them do. You'll find some mills that are pumping out lumber still at that cheaper price. But if you're a high input cost producer, like many are up in the British Columbia area, those mills are very sensitive. If the price comes down too low or the cost of production goes up, they shut down right now. And that's what we are facing. And then on top of that, we now have tariffs that are hitting the Canadian lumber industry, softwoods coming into the United States, which is not going to make it any cheaper for lumber to be here in the United States, considering that 20% of what it is that is used and consumed here in the United States comes out of Canada. So if they're getting hit with tariffs, they're not going to be able to provide cheap lumber coming into the United States. And if the United States is curtailing a bunch of their development, any spark in that home builder demand and is going to send those prices skyrocketing. This is not a time to pretend that it can be anything other than what it is. It's short inventory levels, and the moment that the demand picks up, it's going to be on. And I cannot warn you any more than this, right? There's no other evidence out there. I'm showing you the articles of the mill curtailments. I'm showing you where the home builders are going to be excited if the buyer comes into the market again. And if you have a position in which that the Federal Reserve is promising interest rate cuts, which I don't necessarily believe they promised interest rate cuts, but the market believes that, it starts pushing mortgage rates down, which then brings the buyer into the market. It's going to happen, right? It's happening now. All right, where are we at? 7 minutes into it. All right, saying there is enough housing is like saying Simon's fuzzy dice ain't blue. Yeah, and I agree with that. Like, I mean, it doesn't, even if you think about it, it's just like there might be plenty of houses out there. They're concentrated into the hands of a few, right? Property ownership. That is going to be the major difference between what most people are going to experience as far as having a decent life, as far as being on the other side of the wedge, is whether or not you are a property owner. That's what's coming to this future of this nation. You know, I had somebody actually say something to me the other day. They were like, are you actively thinking of ways to make this system a better place for your grandchildren or something like that? And I'm like, why would I put that kind of effort in? Why would I put that kind of effort in to try and figure out how it is that society can be different from the view that I am now experiencing in order to make my grandchildren's life a better place? Like, I don't know what in the world that I could possibly come up with as far as a theory or a concept for everybody to follow so that it can be like this great symbiotic, wonderful world, right? Where everybody gets to share in everybody's efforts and we all sing Kumbaya together. I don't get that. Like, that is not something that is a reality-based thought, right? The reality is we're in survival of the fittest, right? That's what we're in. This is laws of the jungle kind of thing. And of course, we do have civilized, society to us in which that we are supposed to be, following the laws of an order of man and all this other stuff. Ultimately, what it comes down to is you are up against everybody else and you have to find that position for yourself. You have to own your own economy. You have to know exactly what it is that you have planned for the future and not base that on somebody else's expectations or the expectation of somebody else performing. It's only about you. Understand that it's about property ownership and capitalists. They are the ones who are going to separate themselves from everybody else. And we can try and come up with laws to prevent that from happening. What you are going to do is prevent yourself from succeeding. That's what's really going to end up happening. Understand that it's not fair. This is not fair. It's never going to be fair. Don't expect it to be fair. If it was fair, then we wouldn't be having this channel. We wouldn't be having this conversation. We wouldn't be talking. It's not fair. It's never going to be fair. And because it's not fair and it's never going to be fair, you have to understand that you have to play by your own rules. Right? Don't follow into this, oh, we should have corporate greed doing blah, 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 right? All that other stuff. Okay, great. Corporate greed is always going to be there. Greed and manipulation is always going to be there, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. You can try. You can put your efforts towards it. You can spend a lot of time and money and expense and whatever trying to prevent that from happening, or you can just accept it for the fact that what it is just that, and do something about it for yourself. Not complain about it, not, try and figure out a new concept for it, because that ain't going to change. The separation between the rich and the poor is going to come down to those who are capitalists and those who are property owners. Everybody else is going to be complaining and wishing and praying and hoping and dreaming that there's going to be a different way that this system could be existent, or that they could exist in the system. It ain't going to work. So again, like watching this stuff happen, watching the lumber market, watching the home builders, and then watching what it is that buyer traffic does going into the future is going to help you understand on what it is that you need to do in order to find that property, or to become the capitalist, or to figure out how it is that you are going to conduct business, start businesses, and be part of that being part of that side of the wedge. Whole building boom, when, right? What do they say, 2025? It's going to happen at some point. I mean, if the home builders don't come to market, then we are going to find home prices ever increasingly go up. If they continue to go up, we're going to find $1 million homes at some point. You don't think that builders are going to want to take advantage of those high prices and start building into it? The higher the price goes, the more likely the builder is going to want to get in there and take advantage of those high prices, so long as he knows that there's going to be a buyer. If there's no buyer, then he's going to back out. I don't know. I don't want to do this. Then the demand for homes increases and the price goes up because there's no available homes out there. The idea that all of a sudden there's going to be this huge housing market crash, and all of a sudden all these people who couldn't afford homes are going to be able to afford a home again, that's very wishful thinking. Right? That's very wishful thinking, and it's most likely not going to occur in a fashion in which that you're going to be able to get a house. If we do have a major housing market crash, it's going to be because there is nobody able to get the loans in order to buy homes, and the only people who are going to be purchasing them are going to be those with the cash, the rich, and it's going to separate the rich from the poor even more. So don't wish for a housing market crash. It's going to just create a concentration of property owners. It's not going to spread property ownership out there. The only way you can spread property ownership out there is if you're coming out of poverty, and you have an economy that is becoming producers and savers. Once you are moving into the fashion of being a producer saver, and you can send your products out there to the world, you can begin to raise your standard of living. As you begin to raise your standard of living, the possibilities of going out there and acquiring property and homes and all that other stuff becomes so much easier. However, if you've moved beyond that, if now you are in complete luxuries and there is no production and savings, right? The production and savings is very minimal, and everything is debt-based and service and importing of foreign production, then there's no room there to be a producer saver. How the hell are you going to become a property owner? You just can't. There's no room for it. It's not feasible anymore. And this is where I think most people end up suffering under the idea that they have like a possibility coming in the future of their 9-to-5 job being able to provide them with what it is they need to become a property owner. It's not going to go that way. Right? We've moved beyond. It's read the Cantillon essay. This is the problem that we most likely will face, is that when new money comes into the system, there's no better way of recognizing an abundance of money in the system than less leases and rents that people pay. Right? I mean, think about it. This is happening right now. And understanding it for what it really is then can give you the ability to position yourself in a way that says, yeah, I can't have this expectation that there's going to be some sort of elected leader that's going to change the way things are so that my 9-to-5 job can then provide enough. That's not, like, you can't do that. I'm telling you now, you can't do that. Like, somebody might be able to do it somewhere, right? But most people aren't going to be able to do that. Most people are going to have a 9-to-5 job, going to have another part-time job, have to have some sort of side hustles, trying to do some sort of business, and that is just to get by, right? Because even a good job sucks. It doesn't do it like it used to. But it's best to understand it, why it's happening this way, so that you can deal with it. Because it's not impossible. There's people out there who are doing it every single day, who are making their way through this economy the way it is right now, starting with less than what you have, and they are making their way through this. Don't think that it's impossible. Don't think that you can vote for somebody who's going to make it possible for you. Only you can do that. You have to recognize what it is that you need to do with your life, with your time, in order to acquire the things that you need to move onto the other side of that wedge. It's like almost a desperate, like almost like no other focus on anything else out there other than becoming the property owner and the capitalist. Because any other move than that, you're going to be very frustrated with life. You're going to be very frustrated with the political environment. You're going to be very frustrated with your boss. You're going to be very frustrated with the decisions that you make, all that stuff. But recognize it. It's just like, man, if I do not move this direction, and once you start getting onto it, once you start recognizing it, once you start feeling it, you see it. You see other people out there who are not doing it, and you see them suffering from that, right? We sacrifice the things that we really want in our life, the pleasurable experiences and all that other stuff, so that we can make sure that we get on the other side of the wedge. And I guarantee you, years down the road, you're going to be so much happier that you did that. And you're going to look at the people who are suffering, complaining about how come this society is the way it is, and you're going to think, man, did 25 years ago, 30 years ago, were you trying to become a property owner? Were you trying to get into, stocks and bonds and start businesses? Were you becoming the capitalist part of things? No, most people are probably out there enjoying themselves, spending their money on, luxurious things that don't really have any kind of benefit to their life. And this is the unfortunate circumstances that most people are going to end up facing, because they just don't understand that property ownership is concentrating. It's getting down to just the few. And those people are not going to easily give that property up as they continue to separate themselves. It's almost going to be like to the point that it's going to be two classes of citizens, right? The property owners and everybody else. And the reason why that's going to be is because that's the way it's always been. Just read this essay, okay? He talks about it in that fashion, and that's really the unfortunate circumstances that most people are going to end up facing, is that they're not going to be a property owner. And they didn't try hard to do it. And instead, they were just hoping and wishing and praying that at some point in the future, there would be an opportunity for them to do it that never comes. It's happening now. Just, you could see it all around. Got to unload these 2x10 12s off the truck. Good for you, all-nighter. All right. Joe Justice, you hit the nail. He doesn't see what's coming. Yeah. Looks like the little mini crash in stocks may be the beginning here as VIX volatility starting to ramp. I'm only expecting the August 5th lows to get taken out, though. Carl, is your wife sleeping? All right, Wayne, I'm so sick of hearing it always works out in the end. Wake up, people. It ain't working out for you. That's right, Wayne. It's working out for those who put forth the effort, do the work. Absolutely. Everything is built. Everything is built a piece at a time. Building that house, I'm looking at some new construction that had taken place over at these houses. I'm thinking, when I watched them go together, it was going together a piece at a time. Every stud got put into place, nailed in, everything, right? Everything has to be pieced together, just like your life. You have to build this thing up, right? Whether it's a business, whether it's a YouTube channel, whether it's, a network of people out there to do business with, everything has to be built. It gets built one piece at a time. And most people just want it like all at once, or they put effort towards it for a couple of months and they burn out and they give up. If I had given up when I started my YouTube channel because people weren't watching my videos, I never would have gotten there. I was a YouTuber the day I started making videos, even though nobody was watching the videos. Right? I would put out videos almost daily. And I would get to the point that I thought, man, why am I even doing this? Nobody's really watching. I had a handful of people who were watching this thing, and they were like, hey man, thanks for the information, whatever, great job, you know. And I'm like, that's why, right? Because people are enjoying this, and it's like my own personal log. And I don't care if I'm not, if it's popular or not. That's not the point of it. I just want to be able to understand what's happening in the economy and share some of my ideas and thoughts with an audience. And that was my whole goal. That was it. Not even to make money. Like, my whole intent to make money on YouTube was $100, right? That was my entire goal. $100 to get off of YouTube, because that's what the threshold was for Google to pay you. That was it. That was my entire intentions on making money. However, the channel has done quite well from that, because I put in the effort every single day building this thing up, building this YouTube channel, building up the understanding and the information and my theories about, you know, the credible threats and monetary policy, and building this thing up to the level that I have. Now I have a YouTube channel in which I can share my thoughts with literally hundreds of thousands of people. It's incredible. Like, I never thought that this would have happened. But I knew that if I put forth effort towards something, I could build something. I built houses, I built, you know, all kinds of stuff. So there's no reason why I couldn't build a YouTube channel. Even though I'm sitting in a busted down, you know, old vehicle, doing day job work, talking high level macroeconomics, I didn't say that was a limitation. I didn't have that idea. All I wanted to do was put out my ideas and share my thoughts. That's it, right? And build this thing up. And anybody can do anything they want. You know, I mean, go to school, learn to be a professional at something. Go and start your business up that you have always been, you know, that you've had that great idea for. Start saving up and buying into stocks and bonds and cryptocurrencies and gold and silver, all that stuff. Start positioning yourself in a way that is going to protect you from the outside third-party claim, or something that is going to have you in a far more stable position than those people out there who are looking at the horribleness of the government and horribleness of the banking system, and they have all these ideas of how it is that's going to be damaging to their life. Step away from that, right? It exists, sure, okay, we can observe it. Look at this horribleness that the government does. All right, now that I understand it and I've internalized it, what do I do with this information, right? I need to position myself in order to deal with this stuff. And I can say, hey, this is horrible. Somebody needs to do something about this. And then we can observe it in that fashion. Look at this horrible thing that somebody needs to do something about. This is the reason why your life sucks, right? And we continue to do this every single day, but never really get to the point that says, okay, what do I need to do about it? What do I need to personally do about it? Not expect somebody else to change it, because it ain't going to change. I have to look at it and say, okay, I have to internalize this information no matter how heavy it is, and then realize that I need to do something about this. People said, oh, the government is like holding you back from prosperity and all this other stuff, and their perversions and stuff. And I'm like, what? What is anybody out there preventing me from doing? Anything. Like, I mean, you can't go out and commit crimes. Outside of that, is there anybody out there stopping me from doing anything I want? No, there's nobody out there. There's not. I can step out this truck right now and go do whatever I want. You know, I mean, I don't have to do what it is that I'm doing. I'm choosing to do every single thing that I do. And I don't have a limitation by government. Does they make it easy? No, but life isn't easy. Life isn't fair. So it's just like, no, it's not easy and it's not fair, but that's inconsequential to me figuring out what I need to do with my life. I can bitch about it, but it doesn't work, right? You know? All right, moving on. Damn, George is stepping on the live. All right, no way could I afford to pay full price for my house, so I built it myself. See, that's it. And now own it, right? You have great common sense advice. Thanks. Yeah, thanks. I appreciate you guys. I know I'm kind of going off here a little bit, but I see the things that I have learned over the last few years, and I think about some of the things that I was thinking about, you know, when I wasn't doing well, it was really the only thing that was different about what I am doing now comparatively to before. I was broke, I was drunk, I was bad attitude, I had like all this stuff. And then I wonder why it was that my life wasn't doing well. Why I, was barely scratching by, why I was going deeper into debt, why it seemed like there was no opportunities, there was nobody there helping. There was all this really, like, it was in a bad place. And I couldn't understand why it was that way. And I would blame all kinds of externals on it. It was the government's fault. It's my family's fault. It's like my job's fault. It was all this other things. And then one day I just realized, man, if I don't change the way that I'm doing things, I am going to lose it all. Like, I am going to end up homeless. I will be in the gut. It will be a gutter experience. I knew that. I could see it coming. Like, so I was just like, okay, step one, quit drinking. That was hard, right? But I gave up drinking, and it's not like things got better, right? It was just the first step. Because the next step I realized was that, oh man, I have some pretty messed up mental issues that I have been covering up with alcohol my like whole life. And now I get to deal with that, right? Which is no fun, considering that I'm already broke in debt and, all the other stuff, and now I got to deal with that too. So, like, none of this stuff is fun. None of it's a good experience. I guarantee you, on the other side of it, you're going to be so much happier of it, because the way that you are now thinking, or once you have stepped away from that, the way that you are now thinking starts giving you opportunity. It starts bringing you abundance. It starts bringing, the the life in which that you were truly wanting to live, because you're not blaming, you're not having the negative thoughts, you're actually resonating with that of the world in which that you want to see. So these people are like, man, you've got to figure out a way with trying to figure out how it is that this world could be a better place. And I'm thinking, I did do that. I did it for myself. I can't do it for anybody else. I can only do it for me. And the more I do it, the more I realize that, man, other people can do it too for themselves. And it's literally just comes down to the way that you're thinking. And if you have external, expectations out there of people behaving in a way that's going to be more conducive to your life, you're going to suffer from that. That's all there is to it. All right, happiness is something you feel when working towards a goal. It's not the goal itself. That's right. Sig226. All right, Jeff Simon, the owner of the lumber company, worried that if sales continue to fall, he will need to cut employees. I mean, he doesn't talk about stuff like that, not me personally. Just to kind of give you an idea that if it was a corporation, that would be very much, a major concern, because they don't look at things the same way as like, a private owner of a business is. So I work for a single guy. He owns one store, one lumberyard, local lumberyard. It's the only place he owns. His family has owned it for a very long time. They are in a very good position as far as like, owning the property, owning the equipment, owning all that other stuff. So he's a pretty smart businessman. He's been through a lot of downturns and recessions. And one thing that he prides the company on is that they have never laid anybody off. Not once in the history of their existence, even during the times in which that they probably should have, they didn't. Okay? Now, could that eventually be the one thing that does change at some point? This very well could do it. Things are slow, no doubt about it. Right? And I don't expect things to turn around in a minute. Certainly not with even a Fed rate cut to be any kind of expectation that all of a sudden we're going to have some kind of booming economy. Now, give it time, and that will begin to take place, right? But interest rate cuts, see, this is the thing like most people don't really consider, especially when I read the news articles out there about Fed rate cuts, is that an interest rate cuts takes anywhere from 6 months to a year before it really starts to impact the economy. You have to think, when these rates come down, it takes a while for the people to borrow that money and then that borrowed money to start moving into the economy itself. I mean, just because the rates come down doesn't mean that all of a sudden all these people have all this access to this cheap money, right? That's not the way it goes. People have a slightly better access to it. And that really, how much time needs to take place for a bunch of people to have access to that cheaper funds or the cheaper interest rates in order to contribute back into the economy. I mean, that's like, it's a very cumbersome, slow operation that happens. Especially if you have a downturning economy, then it's even slower because even less people are participating. So, but give it time and it'll eventually move into that direction. I mean, we can see it already starting to happen. Just the idea of the Federal Reserve cutting rates is moving mortgage rates down and has more people coming to shop, coming to look. You know, they're getting interested again because those interest rates that are coming down then give them the opportunity to make that payment. That's like, it's very small, but people are hopeful. They're wishful. They're like, man, I've been sitting on the sidelines waiting. Maybe even be the opportunity to buy a house and then later on in the future refinance it. But if they are very concerned about those interest rates not coming down, then they're going to back off. But if they see them, then they're going to step up. It's like they're literally waiting for perception to change, because nothing in reality changes except for the price of homes keeps going up. But the like reality of the situation is no different than it was a few weeks ago, before the Federal Reserve came out with their statement saying that, you know, the time has come. Nothing's really changed that much, just a little bit of perception. Federal Reserve's still sitting on their hands, the same position that they were in for months. They haven't done anything different. But yet all these people are guaranteeing, like getting that in their head, that there is no doubt in their mind that there is going to be interest rate cuts coming. And very well could be. However, the expectation of it has more of an impact on the economy than the actual rate cuts itself, which will take 6 months to a year to really have their impact. The lone kayaker, been hearing that since 1999. The median home price will be 1.2 million in 2030. Wow, that's a bit, but I mean, if it keeps going at this rate, I can't imagine it being that high by then, unless there's something like really changes to the way that, you know, loans are given, 40-year mortgages or something of that nature. I mean, but, or extra low interest rates. I don't know. $1 million on the median home, that just seems so high. All right. Simon, how closely are you watching the Japanese yen? Are you interested in following the Forex at all, considering its impact on the U.S. economy? Well, that's the thing, Crispy. It's a lot of people want to take into consideration that this, although it's a huge move, I have a tendency to think that a lot of these big moves will find equilibrium fairly quickly. And in the sense that, like, when you had this ultra low yen, yielding yen, and they start moving into, like, borrow cheap yen and buy, you know, high yielding US bonds, and then that yen begins to rise and they have to unwind that trade, and all the market, like the residual impacts to the rest of the economy. Because you think about it, like, if you borrow cheap Japanese yen and then you go and buy high yielding bonds, now you have this asset that you can borrow against, right? So now you're taking that asset, borrowing against it, and buying into, you know, even more into stocks or whatever it is you're going. And you come into a position in which that, oh shit, I have to unwind this thing because the Japanese yen is rising. Well, then you see stock market sell off, right? Then go into the bond, sell off, and then back into the yen to pay that off. And this is kind of like a quick understanding of what's happening there. The impact of that could be quite extreme at the moment, but I don't find that to be so prevalent within the economy that it's going to, like, destroy or crash or burn the economy up. It's probably going to be a good position in which that people can make a lot of money off of. But over the long run, I don't know where it is that that's going to truly impact the economy in a way that says, like, absolutely changes the way that things are being done. I think eventually it'll find an equilibrium again, and then, you know, people won't be talking about it as much. But, you know, I mean, as far as the move and making money, I think there's probably people out there who will know how to trade that and do very well, because there's probably going to be quite a bit of move happening within it. But as far as the long run macroeconomic view of it, I think it's going to be, once it finds its equilibrium, will have very little impact, or long run lasting impact anyway. Can you explain why food is so expensive? Because you're buying the wrong stuff. I don't know. I asked my wife about this, and because she does all the shopping and she is really, really good. Like she can shop. She can buy a lot of food on a very tight budget. Now, she is really good about shopping many places. So it's like she doesn't just use the one location. She uses many locations in order to buy the cheapest stuff that she needs. And then also on top of it, we cook everything, like we do a lot of home cooked meals. We don't eat out much. We don't do like fast frozen, foods like that. Everything is fresh foods that we prepare and eat. So when you do it that way, you have a tendency to pick and choose what it is that you want to buy, and you can find the deals. When you see chicken go on sale, you load up on it. Like, I mean, I know that we do. We will like fill our freezer up with chicken if it's on sale. Oh, hey, a little bird just landed right here, right on my window here. So we will load up the freezer with chicken, or she will even can it. Like she'll can it up and preserve it, and then we'll have canned chicken for years to come. And that's the way we do it. So we're not like the type of people who go out and buy the exact same thing from the exact same place, exactly the same time, every single, like that's not us at all. We are very nimble in what it is that we buy. We buy bulk of a lot of stuff, rice and stuff like that. We buy very big packages of it. So we don't really see, like everybody else is talking about how their food expenses just like they went screaming higher. And she talked about it. Yeah, there's a lot of expensive food out there. But the way she shops, she just, she kind of works around that, looks for the deals, loads up on the deals when she sees them. Doesn't pay for stuff that's overpriced if she can help it. And I mean, again, like I look at like when I saw pork and chicken prices plummeting, I'm like, holy crap, man, this is like pre-pandemic stuff going on here. Load up on it. And we would. And so I know a lot of people don't have that opportunity to fill a standing freezer up, or even like anybody can. Anybody could do that. You could go and get some canning supplies and can in an apartment. Like even if you found chicken on sale or pork on sale and you don't know what to do with it all, learn to can all that stuff up and save it for times when it's too expensive for you or something. But to me, I don't look at it as an expensive item. There was a huge, like you think about the bullwhip effect. You remember they were dumping milk? Remember they were slaughtering the dairy cows? They were doing all, like, because there was no demand for it all of a sudden? Well, what do you think is going to happen if they're not replenishing the cows? Or if they didn't replenish the chickens? Or if they didn't replenish, the hogs? Because I remember this farmer was like unloading finished hogs ready for slaughter for like $100 a piece. This isn't like, oh my God, like how do you get it that cheap? Never, ever, right? But that was happening. How likely is that farmer to load up on piglets in the next year when he just all of a sudden had to unload his entire livestock at a almost give it away price, right? This is the bullwhip effect that begins to take place. Well, no doubt that after that sort of situation, you are going to find food prices jump up it's going to be from high demand and a lack of supply. Well, when that starts to take place, what ends up happening? You end up having a lot of investment that starts pouring into those particular industries. We saw this take place within the chicken and pork industry. When all of a sudden those prices shot up, a lot of investment went into it. When the production ramped up and the prices fell, what happened? They started shutting down pork and chicken processors, or, those facilities, because they were no longer profitable due to the collapsing price. So understanding that it's a bullwhip effect that rips through everything within the economy, not just lumber, not just cars, not just, food. It's going to be from all kinds of stuff out there, and it's not going to happen at the exact same time. It's going to be taking place at different intervals depending on what product it happened to be. Like, I look at it, I don't think about food prices being expensive unless you go and look for expensive food. Go and look for cheap food. You can find it out there. So food isn't that expensive if you can be nimble and you can, go look for the better deals. All right, property prices tag inflation is going to be stopped by the Justice Department. Tom, I hope not. God help us. He is wrong sometimes, but he is right a lot. I'm headed down to the pond at the local park to get me some ducks. I've noticed a lot less stray cats here. All right. Regarding lumber prices, should I build my backyard gazebo now in California? I wouldn't wait. I wouldn't wait for lumber prices to get any cheaper. Think about it. It's at 500 per thousand. It's going to close today somewhere around that 500,000 mark, 500 per thousand mark. And this is not a profitable position for a lot of mills to be in. So do you think that you're going to find lumber cheaper in the future if they're not producing it right now? Like, is that going to be like all of a sudden you're going to come 2-3 months down the road of mill curtailments and shutdowns providing more inventory? Does that seem reasonable? Probably not, right? So if there is no inventory or low inventory production taking place going into the future, and the rock bottom prices of 500 per thousand right now are shutting mill operations down, is there going to be buying opportunity coming into the future? I'm thinking buying opportunity is now, right? You buy when there's blood in the streets. Mill curtailments and shutdowns, inventory depletion, cheap lumber. Is it going to change? Is that a position in which that you think cheaper prices could come to? Like, that's the cheap price environment. Anything else after this is going to be expensive. Could it crash more? Sure, right? I mean, yeah, absolutely. There can who knows what could happen out there. I just look at the profitability of the position in which that lumber is at now comparatively to how much mill curtailments and shutdowns that are actually taking place out there. And I know that the mills are not going to be approving of anything under 500 per thousand. So if that's the case, I would say that this is the bottom. And could it get cheaper? Sure. I don't see it. Going into the future, the opportunity of upward moving prices is so much more than the downward. So I wouldn't wait. All right, I got to go. Do you think travel prices are going to keep going up? I don't know. I don't really like travel. I don't know. Like, oil prices are down on lack of demand, right, coming out of China and stuff. So really low energy price like that could spark somebody's idea of going off in their travel, but I don't see it getting any cheaper to travel unless you're just thinking about driving a car and maybe get some cheaper gas in the future. But other than that, I don't see how like the hospitality industry, like the service industry, all that other stuff is going to get any cheaper than what it is. Food trucks, oh good lord. Okay. Carrying coat of house ownership, taxes, insurance, and maintenance will continue to climb. New construction are 2,000 to 3,000 square foot, need to build more starter homes. Yeah, they need to build them. That's our opinion of it, but that's not the profitable position in which that builders can build. Right? They have to build expensive homes. They have to build big homes in order to get the profit margin out of it to make it worthy to them. So, I mean, you can build a 1,200 square foot ranch style starter home, but if that's not a profitable product for the builder, why would they do it? Like, it could be profitable for some people, some areas, possibly, but in my area, that isn't going to happen. That isn't going to happen. It's going to be big, expensive homes because those are the ones that have the profit margin for the builder. Otherwise, they won't do it. Now, you as an individual person, you could build a 1,200 square foot ranch style home and make it worthy to you. But to a builder, they're going to have something that's going to have a lot more profit margin to it. And that's going to be the bigger, fancier home. And besides, it's going to the property owners who are, like, you think about it, a starter home is for people who are working production and savings. That's where those are the people who buy starter homes. We don't have people who do manufacturing, production, savings jobs. So there's no product for them, right? That's not there's not enough, right? If we were like a major manufacturing country that was pushing all kinds of products out there to the rest of the world, then those starter homes would be something that would be prevalent within the market for people to buy. But that's not the situation we are in. There's this, think about it, it's a huge separation between the rich and the poor. Right? There's inequality. That's the wedge, is inequality. Now, yeah, they should build these cheaper homes for the people to buy, but that's not what it is. Property ownership goes to the upper side of the wedge, which means that people who have money, the wealthy, right? They're the ones who get the homes. There was a time in this country we could consider having an average job was enough. That we could say, hey man, your 9-to-5 job is enough for you to be able to have a house and have a family and do all the things. In our hearts, we feel that that's the way it should be. That's not the case. That's not the reality. The reality is that if you want to be a property owner and you have a 9-to-5 job, you're going to have to do way more. You're going to have to, have a second job. You're going to have to start a business. You're going to have to do online sales. You're going to have a YouTube channel. You're going to have to do all kinds of things out there in order to be that property owner, because your 9-to-5 job isn't going to do it. Even a good job sucks. It isn't going to work. Okay? And so, just know it. Okay, that's the way it is. If I want to be a property owner, I better change the way that I'm considering what it is that I need to do with my life in order to be a property owner. I have to team up with other people, try and buy property with a group of people. I have to figure out how to get into this duplex, rent both sides out, and live in the basement. I mean, this is the type of thing that you have to do, like house hack into it, team up with other people. But trying to have a 9-to-5 job that's going to cut it, good luck. It's not that's the thing of long ago. It doesn't work like that. All right, we need more housing for all the illegals, okay? We send out our dollars through money transfers by migrants sending their money back home. Build expensive homes nobody can afford rather than steady small income. I mean, here's the thing. If it was a profitable thing to do, they would do it. They're not doing it because they just don't want to. They're not doing it because it's not profitable. Like you're saying, yeah, they should just take a little bit of profit and just do these smaller homes because that would be a better thing. For society, great, it would be. You know what, for an individual person, they're not here to make society a better place. Maybe the people around them that are close, they can do with it, but ultimately we are in a position in which that we need to figure out how we profit the most from our efforts. And to say, hey man, you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't profit the most from your efforts, you should take a cut and do the right thing, and build cheap houses for all of us to live in. That's what you should do. Okay, that's not going to happen. That's an expectation out there on somebody else to do something for you that isn't going to happen. Right? So, I mean, that ain't going to work. If you want a house that's going to be cheap, you're going to have to figure out how to build it yourself, or you're going to have to be really good at finding somebody who's willing to do it for you. But most of the people out there who are going to build a spec home, they're going to do it for the most profit they can possibly do, because that's how business works, And it's nothing to be angry about or disgusted. It's just to understand it. That's just the way it is. That's the way that we have now, whether it's progression or not, that's what we've progressed into, is that we cannot have a position in which that now our 9-to-5 job is going to do it. We just know it. We know it's not going to. Knowing that it's not going to means that you have to do something else in addition. And now that we understand it and we have to do something else, you are in a better position than most people are, because there is still the opportunity to do it. That's what's awesome about it. People are doing it every single day. And it's people are thinking all hope is lost because their 9-to-5 job won't cut it. You're right. All hope is lost because your 9-to-5 job ain't going to cut it anymore. Good thing there's all kinds of other ways to build money up. We are building a 1,700 square foot home ourselves, budget 50K with no lavish finishes. See, there you go, right? You do it for yourself, 50K, probably on property you already owned, right? You didn't even, like, I mean, you might have bought the property, but it was probably property you already owned and that you had planned on building on. All right, I gotta go, don't I? Yeah, I gotta go. See you guys, Uneducated Economist, you let me know.